Welcome to Canadian Justice. I'm Christine Van Gyn, and today we're discussing recent changes announced in Ontario to what are called safe or supervised drug injection sites. These are facilities that allow people who are addicted to drugs to bring their own drugs to use in the presence of trained staff. The idea is to reduce overdoses and provide clean needles. But the sites have attracted criticism. A mother of two was shot and killed as she walked past an injection site in a residential neighborhood in Toronto. The sites attract not just drug addicted people, but also their criminal drug dealers. Following the murder, Ontario launched a review of the sites and recently announced that they would be banning them within 200 meters of schools and childcare centers. As a result, 10 facilities will be required to stop providing supervised drug injection services by March of next year, but they can transition into providing drug treatment options. Today, we will debate the merits of this change, first with journalist Adam Zivo, who's been investigating the issue, and then by libertarian think tank president Matt Bufron of the Institute for Liberal Studies. Adam, thank you so much for joining me today. First, let's get your reaction to the changes. What do you think of the closing of these sites near schools and daycares?
I think that on the whole, this is a very positive development. I think anyone who lives near these sites can testify to the fact that they are engines of public disorder and public drug use. Though they may have some benefits for drug users, we have to consider the cost to surrounding communities. Many of these sites received complaints year after year after year about the fact that surrounding residents didn't feel safe. Those sites didn't take them seriously, and now this is the natural consequence of it. And of course, all of this is amplified by the fact that oftentimes kids are just trying to live their lives and go to school near these places. They deserve to feel safe as well.
I think a lot of people watching this might be shocked that the sites, 10 of them, were so close to schools to begin with. So, what's your take on why they were even permitted to be so close to schools and daycare facilities?
Well, I mean, many of these places are in densely populated urban areas where it is hard to not place them near schools. And I think that many people assume that public policymakers would be more considerate of the potential spillover harms to young people. However, public health experts and harm reduction researchers don't really factor in public safety, and they tend to downplay or gaslight people who express these concerns. So I think that this is just something that happened as a natural and accidental consequence of implementing a harm reduction initiative in an urban area with harm reduction researchers who just didn't think about other populations that might be harmed.
So I wonder if maybe you can paint a picture of what things look like around these facilities for people who might be watching this and they don't live near a site like this. What is it like around them?
Well, so Derek Finkel, who's a journalist with the National Post, expressed this very clearly. He lived beside the South Riverdale site in Toronto, and he said that for years, people felt terrified because you would have active drug users and drug dealers surrounding near these sites. They would then steal all the time from surrounding residents. They would threaten surrounding residents. One woman, for example, threatened to burn a woman's house down while her kids were inside. She emphasized that she would burn it down while the kids were inside. The supervised consumption sites didn't care about this. When residents tried to raise their concerns, they were told that they were essentially NIMBYs. There was a hostile environment. There was no real response. Police were discouraged from doing their jobs near these sites. So essentially, we created a lawless zone. And over time, people just felt unsafe. You had kids picking up pieces of fentanyl, kids constantly walking by people overdosing and finding syringes everywhere in places where they should be playing.
So that's interesting because I think the defense of these sites is that you won't find syringes or drugs lying around because there's a facility where they can go and be used in a supervised manner. So like how do those two narratives match up?
Well, I mean, there's a huge gap between how these sites are supposed to work in theory and how they work in practice. So people are supposed to use drugs inside these sites. That doesn't happen. Oftentimes, they use these facilities slightly, and then they just continue using drugs rampantly outside because this is where all of their friends congregate, and this is where all of the drug dealers congregate. So we have to keep in mind that supervised injection sites claim that they will control drug use, but in fact, they merely concentrate it and create a nexus of chaos.
We've got to go to commercial break now, but when we come back, I want to talk about what instigated this review of the sites. And it was the murder of this mom of two named Carolina Hubner Makarat, and what we know about her murder. We will be right back.